Victoria's public school teachers' wages have fallen behind, and there is a lot of ground to make up. In a place that bills itself as the education state, its public school teachers are the lowest paid in the nation. And for many, a move is tempting.
The difference between the Victorian pay and the New South Wales pay, for me in a leadership role, was around $30,000. So being that I have a young family, I have 2 kids, I have a mortgage, it kind of became a no-brainer for me.
On the border, a river separates Victoria from New South Wales. There's also a stark contrast in pay. A starting graduate public school teacher in Victoria earns about $79,500 a year, more than $13,000 less than a graduate public school teacher in New South Wales.
Because you're right on the border, is the salary difference problematic for you?
Yes. So I've lost 7 staff in the last 3 years to over the border, and purely around salary.
Jessica Sargent is the principal of Echuca College, just across the Murray River from Moama in New South Wales. She believes until government school funding improves in Victoria, she'll keep losing teachers.
The inequity is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem while Victoria is so far behind all the other states. But New South Wales being 3 k's away, that makes a massive difference.
Teacher Michael Rogers knows all too well about the difference. He's now teaching at a Catholic school in Albury after leaving a public school across the border in Wodonga, Victoria, in 2023.
Crossing the border didn't really cross my mind until I got to that point where I was burning out. I'd had enough. The pressure and the stress that I was under in Victoria just became too much.
Rogers believes underfunding didn't just impact pay, it also contributed to teacher shortages. He says at times at his old school, with around 60 teaching positions, they were up to 20 teachers short.
The only way we could work around that was for those teachers that had, class off. They'd have to do what we call an extra. You cannot follow a curriculum and deliver, decent and meaningful classes with an hour's notice. It just became, and I hate to say it, a babysitting service. It was clearly that.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a very good.
Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen strongly refutes the criticisms that the state's public schools are underfunded.
There are a lot of people in the sector who say we call ourselves the education state, but that's not really true when it comes to how we compare to other states in school funding.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that assessment, and I'm going to disagree with that assessment both from the perspective of being the Premier of the state that has the best NAPLAN results in the country, being the Premier of Victoria, where we have increased funding to our government schools by 34% over the past decade, the highest level of additional investment of any state and territory.
But when it comes to meeting its commitments under the Gonski reforms, designed to close the gap in funding between government and non-government schools, Professor Ian Morgan from Save Our Schools says Victoria is an outlier.
The Victorian government has always defined Victoria as the education state, but they've always been the laggard in funding the government school sector in particular.
Every state and territory has now reached an agreement with the Commonwealth, setting out how they'll reach the schooling resource standard, the Gonski target for how much public funding schools need by 2034 or earlier. Every state but Victoria. Its current agreement only runs through 2026, meaning no increase to state and federal shares for SRS funding.
Victoria would not agree to what the other states have signed up to.
And Morgan says, with the state and Commonwealth not budging from their share of the schooling resource standard, Victorian government schools are missing out.
The figures vary a little bit, but it's certainly $3-4 billion.
But Victorian Education Minister Ben Carroll says that analysis of Victoria's school funding is inaccurate because it doesn't include other spending, such as building new schools.
When Gonski was first created many years ago, it was the recommendation from David Gonski that school infrastructure also be included in the equation when it comes to schooling resource standard. The Allen Labor government has spent $18.5 billion on school infrastructure. None of that is included in the schooling resource standard.
Why aren't we meeting Gonski more quickly?
We are meeting our obligations.
Echuca College principal Jessica Sargent says her school would definitely benefit if Victoria were moving to the schooling resource standard at the same pace as other states.
If Victoria were there, do you think things would be better in this school?
Absolutely.
How so?
We'd have our facilities would be amazing. We would have the extra support for our students in literacy and numeracy to bridge the gap. Having a large migrant and Indigenous population, there is a lot of extra support that could be put in place to support those students.
Principal Jessica Sargent says the most recent Productivity Commission statistics speak for themselves. Victoria's average spending per student is near the bottom nationally, nearly $4,000 a year less than New South Wales. That, she says, is the state's legacy when it comes to funding government schools.
They haven't come to the party. They promised fair funding and it hasn't happened. What does that say about an education state and their support for their students?